So there are a couple of key things to do to ensure positive outcomes with that evaluation. First of all, we want to see a clinician who specializes in neuromuscular breathing weakness. Although I know depending on where one resides in the world, that can be anywhere between difficult, if not impossible. So, what we found is that some have been successful with a less experienced clinician, someone who is willing to partner with the patient and accepts the fact that someone living with a rare disease may, in fact, know more about that condition than the clinician does. And that clinician is receptive to knowledge transfer through sharing peer-reviewed medical literature. And a huge part of that goes hand in hand with this partnering aspect between patient and clinician is use of medical self-advocacy, speaking up for oneself or on behalf of a loved one to get appropriate interventions. And of course, a big factor in that is having the knowledge and the confidence in order to do so. And that is what we hope that you will gain from this presentation today. So, one of the first opportunities for self-advocacy with your evaluation would be to ensure that your pulmonary function test or your loved one's PFT or non-digital spirometry is measured not just while they're seated, but also while lying down. After all, lying down, that's the position that we're typically in when we sleep. And Dr. John Arbach, who is a pioneer in the field of non-invasive ventilatory support, he and his team on their Breathe NVS website, they pointed out why this is so important. And it's because differences greater than 30%, where supine vital capacity, and vital capacity being one of the measures taken during that test, if that is lower, this is caused by diaphragm weakness, and of course, it typically causes orthopnea or inability to breathe when lying flat. And that is what tells your clinician it's time for them to start you on some breathing support during sleep. Another great opportunity for self-advocacy is with another component of the evaluation, polysomnography or sleep study. So you want to ensure that not only do they measure oxygen saturation during your sleep, but also CO2 or carbon dioxide. Because remember, that is a concern that we have because of our hypoventilation potentially causing us to retain some CO2. There are a couple of non-invasive, painless ways for doing that. Capnography can measure this through the exhaled breath, and transcutaneous CO2 monitoring can use a series of sensors that are applied to the skin that will measure that. And you may fall into this particular category where if you have an NMD specializing clinician and you're an adult, they've not ordered sleep study. That is becoming more common, and a big factor in that is that a lot of the sleep labs, even at very reputable university-based hospitals, they're not staffed in such a way to accommodate our needs with going to the restroom, getting dressed, getting in and out of the bed, and also too, sometimes they don't accommodate us bringing a caregiver or a family member, or particularly they don't have space for that individual to sleep. So we hear stories of parents sleeping in their vehicles in the parking lot so that they can be nearby their adult child. At-home sleep study or overnight oximetry, this may be an alternative for you in your area. But the MDA Quest magazine in 2008, they published an article called Not Enough Z's, and I encourage you to look for that. I guess a couple of months ago, I searched for that and found it still in their archive on the Quest magazine page. But they interviewed several experts in the breathing muscle weakness space, and of course, one of those was Dr. Bach. And he questioned the usefulness of polysomnograms for people with muscle diseases because he says the test interprets all abnormalities as central or obstructive apneas rather than muscle weakness, especially when read by physicians unfamiliar with neuromuscular disease. And we hear that all too often. Folks will say, "Oh, I stopped breathing 80 times during my sleep study," or "My child stopped breathing 40 times." And while that may be true, what we see is that the equipment was designed to identify a stop in breathing, an apnea. But for those of us with weak breathing muscles, our weak effort to breathe may be so shallow that the equipment detects it as a stop in breathing, when in reality, it was just a very shallow breath. So Bach goes on to point out the misdiagnosis then leads to improper treatment. All symptomatic, weak patients need full nocturnal inspiratory muscle rest with very high span BiPAP or use of portable ventilators to fully rest muscles, not CPAP, oxygen, or low span BiPAP. Treat the patient, not the polysomnogram. So today we really just barely scratched the surface on the evaluation topic. So I encourage you to go to our website, breathewithmd.org, select that evaluation link, and within that page we have 4 subpages that you can go to and learn a lot more details about the evaluation process that you should expect for someone with neuromuscular breathing weakness.